How to survive a Bitcoin bear market. It's actually pretty simple. Just don't sell your Bitcoin when the price is down. It's literally that simple. And if you can, buy more Bitcoin while it's on sale. Now, the way you're feeling right now, or the way you're probably feeling right now, or the way you have been feeling at various points over the last month, another way to help survive a Bitcoin bear market is to know that many before you have felt exactly like you do. When Bitcoin dropped from $32 to $2 in 2012, they felt like you do. Because after it went to $2, it bounced around in the low zone, just like it is right now in the low zone. The difference is that low zone was single-digit dollars. Your low zone is in the 60,000s. But, you know, psychology, the feeling, it's all the same. When Bitcoin dropped from $1,200 down to $92 in 2014, guess what? It bounced around down there in the, $100-ish range for a long time, months before it finally went back up. Guess what? They felt exactly like you do. When Bitcoin dropped from $19,000 down to $3,200, guess what? They feel exactly like you did. Same deal. Same news stories, same headlines, same obituaries written for Bitcoin in the New York Times. It just never ends. It's all the same. It's always the same. And when Bitcoin dropped from $69,000 to down to $15,500, guess what? Same thing. Everybody felt the same. They experienced the same thing. Everybody wished ultimately that they had bought more Bitcoin, and the only people who lost were the people who actually sold. So just don't sell. It's literally that simple. And here we are. Bitcoin dropped from 126,000 down to 60, and now we're at 68. Well, isn't it interesting that basically 68, 69,000 today, which is the at or near the bottom of this bear market, was at or near the top of the last bull market. Interesting how that works. So right now, at prices historically a few years ago that would have generated, mass euphoria, are now generating mass hysteria. Well, how do we go from euphoria to hysteria? Well, because back then when Bitcoin was 68,000, they were comparing it to, 10,000, and it was up by 700%. Well, right now they're comparing 68,000 to 126. So it's down by 45% or whatever that is. But anyway, the way you survive a Bitcoin bear market is you don't sell your Bitcoin. It's literally that simple. You survive by time. Time fixes it for you. You don't actually have to do anything. Bitcoin recovers all by itself by the actions of others, even if you don't do anything. So just ride it out. You're fine. If you can buy more Bitcoin, I would. It's on sale. Any Bitcoin you buy right now brings down the average price you paid for Bitcoin. So if you bought Bitcoin at 110 and you buy more at 70, if you buy the same amount in both cases, your average price drops to 90,000. Because I guess I need to run the math on that. But the short take is when you buy at a higher price and a lower price, the average ends up in between, depending on how much you buy at higher, how much you end up lower. But, let's assume the math is even between that and 110 and 70, while the midpoint, 20 above 70, 20 below 110 is 90. So you end up having an average price of 90,000, even though you bought some at 110, some at 70. So the more you buy at a cheaper price, the lower your average acquisition cost of Bitcoin, which in the long term is what matters the most. So you survive Bitcoin bear markets by not selling. You buy more if you can. And you know that many times before, this is the fifth major Bitcoin bear market. There's somewhere between another half a dozen to a dozen if you want to count smaller ones. But this is the this is the fifth big one where the price dipped at least temporarily below 50% down from the all-time high. So I think most people would say, yep, it's a bear market. It's the fifth big bear market of Bitcoin's existence. And guess what? All four prior times, it set new all-time highs. Guess what it'll do again? Give it a little time, it will set new all-time highs. You'll be fine. Everybody will be fine. The way you're feeling has been felt by many before. I know you feel like if you're new to Bitcoin, it's over, the party's over, you were late to the boat, things are winding down, it's run its course, had its time in the sun, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Everybody before you felt the same way. Everybody before you eventually wished that they had bought way more Bitcoin at any of the prices from before, just like I do. Every price between 12,600 and 6,000. I wish I had bought Bitcoin at all of those prices. And all of those prices are exactly 10% of where we've been. 126,000, 10% of that is 12,600, which is where I bought my first Bitcoin. Then the price dropped, of course, just like it is now, because I bought on the tail end of 2017, meaning I was buying into the bear market of 2018, meaning as I was buying, the price was falling. And the cheapest Bitcoin I ever bought was 6,400. the equivalent in 10x terms of 64,000. Should I have bought more? Yes, because back then Bitcoin dipped more in the past than it does now, because it's just a much more mature and larger asset. So I wish I had bought way more. I didn't. But I ended up coming back and buying way more at, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, all the way up to 122 and 124, where I own some Bitcoin from way up there too, which is all fine. So you'll be fine. Everything that's happening now has happened before. When it happened previously, it was much worse than it is now. Bitcoin is a lot more mature and less volatile than it used to be. So if this is painful, just be glad you got on when you did, and not when the roller coaster really would make you chuck your lunch. The early days of Bitcoin were way radically more volatile than it is now. So if this seems volatile, if you're barely hanging on, just be glad that my advocacy started for Bitcoin when it did. The returns would have been higher if I had started sooner, but the volatility would also have been so much higher that a lot of people could not have handled it. So the way you survive is just time. Let it play out. We're past the point of price pain for the most part, or perhaps entirely, and we're to the point of time pain. Not price pain, but time pain. Time pain is when we grind sideways or slightly down or slightly up or slightly down. And we do this for some series of months until everybody with weak hands, a weak heart, a weak soul, till all of those people have been shaken off. And once those people have been shaken off because they just can't take it anymore, well, then we'll go and set new all-time highs. All markets work that way. It's not unique to Bitcoin. It's just the way markets work. Every market where stuff trades works that way. You leave it alone long enough, and if the asset is solid, it will recover. You don't have to do anything. You're fine. Buy more if you can. Hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible. Simple formula, hasn't changed and won't. Thanks.